Welcome to our live talks and our second broadcast here, where we are directly from EuroPerio in Amsterdam. During today and tomorrow, you will have the opportunity to take part of our live sessions here on our Facebook page. We will interview guests and give you the latest Congress updates from the Congress. You can use the chat function and send in your questions, and our experts are standing by ready to send you their answers. My name is Mia Jensen, and I will be your host for the live session, together with our roaming reporter, Dirk Dreves. Today I have a very special guest with me, Dr. Misha Krebs. Dr. Krebs is an assistant professor at the University of Goethe in the Department of Oral Surgery and Implantology. Misha, a warm welcome to Live Talks.
It's a very big pleasure to be here with you.
Thank you very much. So the session name is actually about the virtual patient. So what does that mean to you?
To me, it means our treatment concepts have really changed during the last 2 years, actually. We see that in former times, we treated a patient, especially in surgical field, and then we transported all the information that we had from implant positioning that was evident, that was a healed site, to the lab and worked on with that. And now we start to plan and work on with a virtual patient. So we plan our prosthetics, our reconstructions, everything ahead of surgery, and we get delivered parts that we can bring into our patients on the day of surgery, and that is a really tremendous change in the whole workflow.
And so according to you, what are the top three benefits with working with a digital implant workflow?
One is for sure we will have better results because the implant will be exactly in the positioning where we want to have it. And on the other hand, we save treatment time for me as a dentist as well as for our patients. And that's what they really appreciate. When they don't have to sit for a pretty long time on a chair, and everything in the workflow where the patient is there gets smooth and fast. So that is something where we really can reduce the treatment time for everybody, and that is, I think, a big improvement in patient comfort as well.
And how do you work in your clinic with guided implant surgery and the planning that is possible?
As I said, that changed our working in single tooth cases especially, because in former times we did guided surgery for big cases where we had to extract a lot of teeth, where we had to look where to place our implants and where to graft perhaps. So that was something for the big cases. But that changed totally, because now we do offer our patients kind of a new workflow with single tooth reconstructions immediately on the day of surgery. And that is something which changed our working in daily practice.
I understand you use intraoral scanning in your work. So what are the advantages and how do your patients feel with intraoral scanning?
We use intraoral scanning also, again, as a feature to fabricate things very fast so that we can do fast reconstructions, and that works very well. And patients are fascinated about the technical thing about it. So it's a camera and you film me, and all this is very amazing for the patients, and they feel like being something special. Patient comfort, it depends on. I mean, sometimes an impression is easier, sometimes scanning is easier. It depends on where you are, how much salvation you have. To keep it dry can also be kind of difficult with a scanner. So I think it is really like the amazement about the new techniques as well.
I see. So single tooth loss, as we mentioned, is quite common. So what are the key benefits with a screw retained solution, like, for example, the Atlantis custom base?
Yeah, we see that screw retained solutions become more and more important, and especially in immediate cases, that's a nice solution. Don't have to cement intraorally. But in anterior cases, we have often problems with the areas where the screw comes out of the tooth. So that is something that really makes it possible in a lot of cases where we simply were not able to give a solution with a screw-retained anterior crown in former times. So it's an improvement and gives us the possibility to solve new cases in that way. And we will see that tomorrow as well in our session.
Sounds good. And our roaming reporter, Dirk Drews, visited the exhibition and took a look at the digital implant workflow. Let's see.
I'm here at the counter where Dentsply Sirona shows the digital workflow. And I'm here with Jose Alonso, who will explain it to us. Thank you,
Perfect.
Jose.
Thank you. So, welcome. So a digital workflow always starts with a very important part, which is digitizing the patient. We need to have a virtual copy of the patient so that we can do whatever we want to do with him. The first thing is always going to have a CBCT scanner so that we know about the insides, the bone. But then the next very important step is to really know about the teeth and the soft tissue. And that's why we are going to be using the CEREC Omnicam today to scan our patient. So we just start our camera. Let me just give it a kick. And if it's not working, we can always use the mouse, right? So we are just going to be placing the camera close to the teeth. And now, as you can see, the software is already registering what I'm doing in the screen. And I'm just going to follow my scan path. And I'm going to be digitizing my patient, all right? Of course, with a model, it's always a little bit more easy, right? Now we have all the data that we need. Our patient is digitized. We have used Sirona Connect to upload all the data to the portal. And now we come to the Dentsply Sirona portal. What we are going to be doing here is asking for a planning proposal for our implants. So we go to the portal, order digital solutions. Once we log in, we have access to all the cases. And what we are going to be doing is, of course, starting a new case. So while this is loading, we just need to introduce our information. We introduce a patient ID. We never use the real patient name. We select the type of case. It's a mandible, partially dentulous. We are going to select the implants that we are going to be using. It's going to be Dentsply Sirona implants OsseoSpeed EV. And we are asking for a screw retain solution. The crown that we are going to be restoring is a 30 in American number. Is going to be a tooth-supported guide for the surgery, and we are going to be using a implant safe guide, which is going to give us completely control on the drilling and the implant installation. So what we want to provide is the information about the CT scanner that we said that is the first step. So I have them in my computer already. I select the DICOM images, and I say open, and the data transfer starts. Then my stone model is already ready in my Sirona Connect connection, all right? So we just select the intraoral scanner and we are ready to go. So with this, we are going to receive in 24 hours a planning proposal for our implants that we need to review. And that we are going to show in the next step. So the case is ready. Is status approval required, meaning that we need to review the planning. So I can just click on that. I open the case, and here I have no remarks, so everything is okay, but I want to see the planning. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open the SimPlan editor, and I'm going to review the planning. Case is ready for visualization. Here I have it. I have my planning. And first of all, what I'm seeing here is where is my implant, where are the adjacent roots, where is the bone, nerve. I can see the 2D images, I can see the 3D, but I'm very interested in looking at the aesthetics. So I want to see the emergence because we are looking for a crown down approach on our implant planning. And if I look at this, I might not be 100% happy with the solution. I'm going to tweak it. Of course, any change that I want to do is going to destroy the previous planning. I'm okay with that because I want to give it my twist. So I continue changing my implant until it's perfectly centered, following the axis. Maybe I want to tweak a little bit that angle too, something like that. That would be perfect. And because we are planning a profile implant, I want to be perfectly sure about the shape of the implant and how it is fitting the bone. I see that it's perfectly planned. I'm ready to continue. I click approve, And from this moment on, a guide is going to be manufactured. So here we have the guide, all right? As you can see here is the case that we planned. All right, what I'm going to be doing is using a drill that is going to get into the tube and is going to give me guidance. Through this guide and the sleeve, I'm going to continue with the drilling, and then finally I'm going to use my implant and also place it through the tubes so that it has complete guidance. In this way, I'm transferring the virtual into the real world. This might be the way in which I can really do a proper implant planning. But of course it's not enough, because we just have one part of the solution. The patient is not asking for a screw in the mouth, he's really asking for teeth, for a smile. And that's why we can use an Atlantis abutment, like you can see here, totally customized for the patient, allowing us to get the perfect aesthetics. Is delivered with an insertion guide that I'm going to use to properly place it into the patient. I screw it, and then I have everything in place to finish up my perfect case.
So Misha, when you see this, what are your comments?
Well, we see actually the things we talked about, how to digitize our patient into a format that we can work on, to combine CBCT data, which gives us the bone, with intraoral data giving us tooth surfaces, soft tissue surfaces, and the possibility to plan and then to create the abutment, the implant positioning, over to placing this and fabricating all this stuff and then getting back into our patient. So we have a workflow that now goes out of the patient's mouth, is fabricated kind of centrally in the company, and then gives us all these parts back so that we can start with transferring what we did virtually in the computer, then into reality in the mouth. So exactly my daily workflow.
Sounds great. And this is really becoming an important part for many dentists in their private practices or everyday practice. And we met with Dr. Paul Weigel from the University of Frankfurt and asked him about how can you start implementing this in the daily work, in the daily practice.
And I recommend not to start by the big cases with a full arch restoration and a lot of augmentations. Start with the cases you do mostly. 80% of all implants are placed in a single tooth restoration, in a single tooth gap instead of a city unit bridge. And I think in these cases, in this indication, the digital workflow nowadays gives you a big advantage in the daily office. The first workflow, the lab side workflow, is in my opinion easier to use for the beginners because they have no invest and even they don't have to be very big educated in using the software for planning because this can be outsourced. And with this outsourcing model, helping with the company, you have only to approve the planning and the treatment, and then you can have everything pre-delivered. That means you get the template for guided surgery, you get the customized abutment, and you get the temporary restoration at the time where you place the implant.
So, some interesting advice from Dr. Paul Weigel. So, Misha, what are your comments when you hear this? What would be your advice to somebody thinking about starting with the clinical workflow, the digital workflow?
Yeah, I think Paul, and for sure we are running in one direction as we are also working together relatively close, so gives the right advices that it is better to start with kind of a smaller case, and single tooth cases are ideal to also get to know the systems, to learn the systems. And in former times we had to get confident with that software and to do things we don't need to do anymore today, because we get offered solutions who do the stuff that takes a lot of time for us, as here kind of getting to know the software, planning all that. So we get a design suggestion. Important is that we have control of this suggestion so that we ourselves check whether it is the right position. And if we're not happy with that, change that and adopt it, as we saw previously by Jose, that it is important really to check and to have control of what is happening. But then when we're happy with that, we can order it and we get parts like the guide, and if we want to, even a abutment for immediate reconstruction. But perhaps just to get confident, order a guide. Place one implant like that, get confident with that, and if you're confident and the workflow works in your hands, then going next step, kind of order an abutment and try an immediate reconstruction. So I would go step by step, but really stay in the suggestion of Paul, doing kind of a small case as a beginning case. I think that's the right way.
Yeah, sounds good. There seems to be a lot of development within this area, a lot of new products, services, and solutions. So let's listen to what Joe Massos, Director Digital Solutions at Dentsply Sirona Implants, has to say about the future.
And a little bit further in the future, I think it's very interesting what is going on concerning artificial intelligence and big data. If you look at how many abutments, we actually have designed more than 3 million abutments to date with Atlantis. We have done hundred thousands of cases with Simplant. That in itself gives us a lot of data, big data, as people are talking about, to give input for future developments, but also for future proposals to customers. Just imagine that we could send back to a clinician after uploading the data, the scan data and the CBCT data, we would be able to send back in seconds an implant planning that is based on millions of implant planning, and even give, for example, a predictability on the primary stability and maybe even on the probability of the implant survival. Those things, I mean, they're not that far in the future, but you can imagine how interesting it is to be part of that. And that's just a few of the things we're talking about in the relatively near future.
Thanks, Joe, for sharing what may come in the future. It sounds very interesting. So, Misha, you are the third generation of dentists. Both your father and your grandfather were dentists. So, if you compare the way that you work today with how they used to work, what would you say is the difference?
There are quite a lot of differences. I mean, there are personal differences and differences in the way we work. When my grandfather started, there was one room where he treated patients, the next room was his kitchen, the next room was the room where they had lunch, and then there was the living room, just everything next door in one building. For sure, that has changed totally. The building is now only an office where he used to live with his whole family and work. And on the other hand, we know that we have very fast developments in dentistry, as in all technical fields. What we heard just now also is something that we see will change the future. And it changed also our daily working now, because when I started with guided surgery, we waited about 2 weeks till we got a stent. And now we order things, and within 1 week we are able to not only get a stent, but also an abutment and all the other stuff. So all this made these workflows possible as they are today. And coming back to my grandfather and my father, all materials have totally changed. So when I started, everything was metal casting and ceramics fused to metal. That was a standard. And now, just within the time I work, everything has changed to CAD/CAM manufacturing, full ceramic crowns and bridges. So only in that time everything changed. I think when my grandfather saw our opportunities today, he would have loved to work with these new possibilities, because what we can do and how we can reconstruct our patients now, that was impossible in his times. So I think it's really a good time for our patients to live today and not 40 years ago.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question then, that the change for the patient is quite substantial, right?
Really, it's really substantial in the comfort of what we can offer. I mean, my grandfather, they made a lot of removable dentures, a lot of total dentures, and what can we offer our patients with implant dentistry? And implant reconstructions, instead of having big bridges with problems in cleaning and stuff like that. So there is really big improvements with materials, with treatment concepts. Really, nearly everything has changed. I mean, taking out a tooth is probably the same, but all the other things have really changed.
Yeah.
And when I remember, we still have instruments where my grandfather started with. So a drilling machine where you have to push with your feet so that it rotates and then you can drill. And we have patients telling us, I still remember your grandfather treating me with that device that you have still here. And now we have modern machines, and so the treatment has also been getting much more comfortable for the patient, really.
Yes. It's good with development.
Yeah.
So you will present tomorrow at the Inspiration Talks. Could you give us a short summary of what the content of your presentation?
I mean, we saw a good summary during this discussion and all the videos, actually. So I will also show cases and how we perform, like starting with single tooth cases that we immediately reconstructed, and cases where we needed an angulated screw access, where we talked about, and giving you just, I mean, it's not a long talk, but giving you some ideas of how the daily work with these solutions looks like, and also about the amazing results. What we really see is a fantastic soft tissue response on that immediate reconstructions. We see soft tissues in a volume that we did not expect, especially in cases where we have a lot of loss, actually, of hard and soft tissues. We see results without grafting that look fantastic, and we did not really dream of, actually. So I think that is something, and I want to show that to everyone who wants to see it, because that is something which really, it again changed my working.
Sounds very inspiring, and let's take a look at what else will happen at the Inspiration Talks. So I look forward to Inspiration Talks tomorrow, and I would like to thank you a lot for taking the time to join me in live talks. Thanks a lot, Misha.
It was a real pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity to be here.
Thank you. So this concludes the first day of live talks. This session will be posted on the Facebook webpage. So in case you'd like to review something or share the link with a friend, please do so. And try to tune in tomorrow morning for the next session, where we will have our next guest, Dr. Michael Norton. Thank you for today, and have a nice afternoon.